Tom had always believed that buying a home meant peace, freedom, and comfort. After years of saving, he and his wife Anna finally purchased a small house in a neat suburban neighborhood. The streets were lined with trimmed bushes, the sidewalks were clean, and every driveway looked polished. On the surface, it seemed like the perfect place to live. But there was one problem: the homeowners association. More importantly, there was Karen, the president of the HOA. Karen was known across the neighborhood for her strictness. She walked around daily with her clipboard, inspecting lawns, counting garbage bins, and even measuring the length of grass. She believed the neighborhood stayed beautiful only because of her rules. Others quietly obeyed, fearing fines and letters, but Tom had a different nature. He respected rules, but he also valued common sense. He was not the type to bow to someone who tried to control every detail of his life. One sunny Saturday morning, Tom knelt by his front steps with tools scattered beside him. A small crack had appeared in the concrete, and he wanted to fix it before it grew worse. He worked slowly, enjoying the calm of the day. Birds chirped in the nearby trees, and a light breeze carried the smell of fresh grass. Anna was inside the house preparing for her shift. She worked as a police officer, though most of the neighbors only knew her as a quiet, kind woman who waved politely whenever she left in uniform. Since she often worked nights, she kept her personal life private. Tom had just applied cement to the crack when he heard footsteps approaching. He didn't need to look up to know who it was. Karen's sharp heels clicked against the pavement, and her shadow stretched across his tools. "Tom," Karen said firmly, her voice carrying the same tone she might use on a student late to class. "This step is a violation." Tom set his trowel down and wiped his hands on a rag. "Morning, Karen. I'm fixing it right now." Karen frowned, tightening her grip on her clipboard. "You were supposed to fix it last week." "I sent a notice." "I didn't see any notice," Tom replied calmly. "And anyway, it's a small crack. I had planned to take care of it today, and here I am doing it." Karen flipped through her clipboard as though she had evidence against him. "It doesn't matter when you planned. Rules are rules. If you cannot handle upkeep on this house, maybe this neighborhood isn't for you." Tom took a deep breath. He had learned long ago not to argue too much with her. The more he resisted, the more stubborn she became. "Karen, the crack is almost filled. By tomorrow, it will look brand new. You can relax." Her eyes narrowed. "I don't relax when the community image is at stake." Without waiting for his reply, Karen marched down the path, muttering about standards and deadlines. Tom shook his head, chuckled under his breath, and went back to work. Later that afternoon, when the sun had dipped lower, Tom finished the repair. He stood stretching his back and looked at his work with satisfaction. The step looked smooth again. He gathered his tools and carried them to the shed behind the house. As he returned, he noticed Karen standing at the corner of the street watching. She held up her phone, snapped a picture of his front yard, and quickly typed something on her device. Tom sighed. Inside, Anna was setting the table for dinner. The smell of roasted chicken filled the kitchen. She greeted him with a smile. "How was the battle with the step?" "Step is fine," Tom replied, washing his hands. "The battle with Karen, on the other hand, never ends. She showed up again today." Anna raised her brows. "What did she want this time?" "She said the crack was a violation." "Can you believe that?" "I was fixing it right in front of her, but she acted like I had committed a crime." Anna shook her head slowly. "That woman is looking for trouble. She has too much time on her hands. Just be careful, Tom. Some people don't stop until they feel like they've won." Tom smiled faintly. "I'm not worried. She can't do much. At the end of the day, it's just a house step." But as they ate dinner together, Anna's warning echoed in his mind. She had seen enough people who thrived on control, and she knew trouble often came in unexpected ways. After dinner, Tom sat in the living room with a book, while Anna prepared her uniform for the night shift. She looked sharp in her pressed shirt, polished badge, and sturdy boots. Before leaving, she kissed Tom goodbye and reminded him to lock the doors. The house felt quiet once she was gone. Tom turned on the television, but his thoughts drifted back to Karen. He wondered how one person could spend so much energy policing her neighbors. The next morning, Tom went outside to water the plants. He noticed footprints in the soil near the side of his house. He frowned. They didn't belong to him or Anna. He bent down and saw a broken flower stem. It looked like someone had walked too close to his garden. Suspicion prickled his thoughts. He looked toward Karen's house 2 doors down. The curtains moved slightly as if someone had just peeked out. All day, Tom kept noticing little things. A paper slipped under his door with a list of improvements, a warning letter taped to his mailbox, a photo printed on cheap paper showing his trash bin slightly crooked. Each note carried the same sharp handwriting. By evening, he felt uneasy. When Anna came home from her shift, he showed her the notes. "She's crossing lines now," Anna said firmly. "It's one thing to complain face to face, but sneaking around, taking pictures, leaving notes, that's harassment." Tom nodded, though he tried to stay calm. "I'll ignore it for now. Maybe she'll get bored," Anna frowned. "People like her don't get bored. They push until someone pushes back." Days passed and the tension grew. Tom kept to his routine, mowing the lawn, fixing small things, and greeting the few friendly neighbors who dared to speak with him. But Karen's presence loomed constantly. She walked by his house every morning, writing in her clipboard, sometimes even stopping to stare at his windows. Then came the Saturday that changed everything. Tom had been in the backyard trimming branches when he heard a loud crash from the front. His heart jumped. He ran around to find his front door hanging crooked on its hinges, the frame splintered. Standing inside his entryway was Karen, holding her phone in one hand and waving the other as if she had caught him in a crime scene. "What are you doing?" Tom shouted, rushing toward her. Karen lifted her chin. "This door was not properly aligned. It's against code. I had to inspect it myself." "You broke my door," Tom said in disbelief. "You can't just come into my house," Karen scoffed. "I called the police already. They'll understand. You're not maintaining this property properly. This neighborhood deserves better." Tom's chest tightened with anger, but he kept his voice steady. "Karen, you went too far. Breaking my door is not your job, and calling the police won't end the way you think." Karen stood confidently in the doorway, certain she had the upper hand. She tapped her foot impatiently, waiting for the sound of sirens. Inside the house, footsteps approached. Anna had just returned from her shift and was still in full uniform. She walked into the hallway, her badge gleaming, her belt secured with official gear. She froze when she saw the broken door, then turned her sharp gaze on Karen. Karen's face drained of color. For the first time, her confidence slipped. The clipboard in her hand trembled. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Tom folded his arms, watching silently as Anna stepped forward. The real moment of reckoning had arrived. Karen stood stiff in the doorway, her eyes fixed on Anna's police badge. The woman who had ruled the neighborhood with notes, warnings, and fines suddenly looked smaller, as if the air had left her. She had expected ordinary officers to arrive and back her up, not the very person who lived inside the house she had tried to control. Anna's face was calm, but her eyes were sharp. She stepped closer, her boots firm on the floor. "Did you break my door?" she asked in a steady voice. Karen stammered, her clipboard shaking in her grip. I was only making sure rules were followed. This door looked off balance, and as president of the HOA, I have authority." "No," Anna interrupted, her tone firm. "You have no authority to enter a private home without permission, and you certainly do not have the right to break property." Tom stood to the side, his arms folded, watching. For weeks he had endured Karen's interference, her letters, and her constant judgment. But this moment was different. For the first time, she looked powerless. Karen opened her mouth again, but Anna lifted a hand. "Quiet. You said you called the police. Good. Let's wait for them together. They'll be very interested in hearing how you forced your way into my house and damaged the door." Karen's face turned pale. She lowered her clipboard slowly as if it had grown heavy. "That won't be necessary. Perhaps I overreacted. I can pay for the repair and we can forget this happened." But before Tom could reply, the sound of sirens echoed down the street. Neighbors peeked from windows and stepped onto porches, whispering among themselves. The queen of the HOA, the woman who had scolded everyone else for the smallest mistakes, was now at the center of a scene she could not control. Two officers stepped out of the patrol car and approached. Karen's eyes darted nervously between them and Anna. Anna spoke first. "Officers, thank you for coming. This woman broke my front door without permission. She claims she was acting under HOA authority." Karen's lips trembled. I was trying to keep the community safe. I thought there was a violation." One of the officers glanced at the broken door, then at Tom, who nodded. The officer's brow furrowed. "Ma'am, HOA rules don't give you the right to enter someone's home or damage their property. That's trespassing and destruction of property." Karen's hands shook. But I didn't mean any harm. I just wanted— Please step outside, the officer said firmly. As Karen obeyed, her once proud steps now looked unsteady. Neighbors whispered louder, some even taking pictures with their phones. The woman who had scolded them for weeds or late trash bins now stood exposed, her authority crumbling. Tom felt a mix of relief and amazement. For weeks he had dreaded her visits, but now he saw her differently. Karen wasn't powerful. She was simply someone who relied on fear to get her way. After questioning both sides, the officers wrote a report. They told Tom he could file charges if he wished. Karen pleaded. Please don't press charges. I'll repair everything, I promise. I'll never step on your property again. Anna looked at Tom. It's your choice. She needs to be held accountable. Tom thought carefully. Part of him wanted to see Karen face consequences, but another part wanted peace. Finally, he said, For now, I won't file charges. But if anything like this happens again, I won't hesitate. Karen lowered her head, defeated. The officers escorted her back to her house, where the curtains still twitched from curious neighbors. When the patrol car drove away, Anna turned to Tom. Are you sure about not pressing charges? Tom sighed. I want peace more than revenge. But now she knows I won't just accept her behavior. Everyone saw what happened. Her power over them is gone. Anna studied him for a moment, then nodded. Just remember, people like her don't always give up so easily. Stay alert. That night, the house felt different. The broken door was covered with a temporary board until repairs could be made, but inside, Tom felt lighter. For the first time, Karen's shadow seemed smaller. Yet as he tried to sleep, he couldn't shake Anna's warning. People like Karen often returned when least expected. The following week brought an unusual calm. Karen was nowhere to be seen on her usual walks. Her clipboard was missing, and her car stayed parked in her driveway. Neighbors whispered that she was embarrassed, that she had lost her pride. Some even knocked on Tom's door to thank him. One neighbor, a man named David, spoke softly. Tom, you did what we all wished we could. She's been harassing us for years, but we were too scared of fines. After what happened, people feel free again. Tom smiled politely. I didn't plan to be anyone's hero. I just wanted her to stop. Still, he couldn't ignore the feeling that Karen was planning something. She had lost too much to stay quiet forever. Sure enough, the signs appeared. One evening, Tom noticed a car parked across the street longer than usual, with someone inside taking notes. Another morning, Anna found papers slipped under their mat again, this time unsigned. See? Anna said, holding the notes. She's not done. She's just changing tactics. The notes were vague, talking about community standards and possible legal actions. They didn't mention Karen's name, but her style was obvious. Tom decided to act differently this time. Instead of ignoring the notes, he began keeping records. He took photos of the papers, noted the dates, and even installed a small camera near the porch. A few nights later, the camera captured movement. A figure in a hoodie approached the house, bent down, and slid a paper under the door. Though the hood was pulled tight, the way the person walked was familiar. Tom showed Anna the footage. That's her, Anna said. She thinks she can hide, but she can't. Tom nodded. This time I'll be ready. One morning, Tom received an official-looking letter in his mailbox. It wasn't from the HOA office, but from a lawyer representing the community association. The letter accused him of damaging the reputation of the neighborhood by involving the police and suggested he consider moving out. Tom read it twice, then handed it to Anna. She scanned it, her jaw tightening. She's desperate. She probably paid a lawyer to scare you, but this is just intimidation. Instead of being afraid, Tom felt a surge of determination. Then it's time to stand up properly. If she wants to play with legal threats, I'll show her I'm not alone. Anna smiled faintly. Now you're thinking like someone who understands bullies. They thrive on silence. Once you push back, they lose power. Tom decided to attend the next HOA meeting, something he had avoided before. He wanted to face Karen in front of everyone, not in secret letters or late-night notes. When the evening of the meeting arrived, the community center buzzed with quiet chatter. Dozens of neighbors gathered, many of whom had suffered under Karen's strict rules. Karen walked to the front, clipboard in hand again, trying to appear composed. But her eyes flickered nervously when she saw Tom and Anna enter together. Anna was in plain clothes this time, but her presence was enough to remind Karen of what had happened. The meeting began with routine topics: lawn care, street repairs, upcoming events. Then Karen cleared her throat. Before we continue, I want to address the matter involving one homeowner who invited police attention unnecessarily, damaging our neighborhood's reputation. Murmurs spread across the room. Everyone knew she was talking about Tom. Tom stood. His voice was calm but strong. If you mean me, Karen, let's be clear. The police were called by you, not me. They came because you broke my door and entered my home without permission. Everyone saw what happened. That wasn't about community reputation. That was about your behavior. Gasps rippled through the room. Karen's face flushed red. She tried to respond, but several neighbors interrupted. He's right, one said. She's been harassing us too, another added. We're tired of your rules, a third declared. The tide had turned. For years, Karen had ruled with fear, but now, surrounded by voices of resistance, she looked cornered. Tom didn't raise his voice. He simply added, "This neighborhood should be about respect, not control. If we want peace, we need to work together, not against each other." Applause filled the room. Karen sat down, her clipboard slipping from her lap. For the first time, her authority was broken in public, not just in private. Tom glanced at Anna, who gave him a small nod. The battle wasn't over, but this was a victory. Karen had lost her grip, and the neighbors had found their courage. The night after the heated HOA meeting, Tom and Anna sat together in their living room. A soft lamp lit the space, and the quiet hum of the refrigerator filled the silence. Tom leaned back on the sofa, feeling both tired and relieved. "That was intense," Tom said, running a hand through his hair. For once, people spoke up against her. "I didn't expect that much support." Anna smiled faintly. "You gave them courage. They saw you stand up, and that made it easier for them to speak." "Karen thrives when people are silent, but she can't handle resistance." Tom nodded, but he knew something in his heart. She won't stop here. She's embarrassed, and people like her don't forget. She's planning something. Anna leaned closer. "Then we'll be ready. You're not alone in this anymore." The neighbors saw her true side. If she tries anything, she'll have to face all of us. Those words gave Tom comfort, but a shadow still lingered in his thoughts. In the days following the meeting, the neighborhood seemed brighter. Children played outside without Karen scolding them about noise. People trimmed their lawns without fear of her measuring tape. Laughter replaced the whispers of complaint. For the first time since moving in, Tom felt part of a real community. David and his wife often stopped by to chat, and others waved when they saw him walking. Even the elderly couple across the street, who had always avoided conversation, greeted him warmly. But beneath this new peace, Karen was quiet. Too quiet. Her house curtains remained closed, and her once frequent walks with a clipboard stopped entirely. Neighbors joked that she had given up, but Tom wasn't convinced. He had seen the look in her eyes at the meeting. That wasn't surrender. That was someone waiting for the right moment. One evening, Anna returned home earlier than usual. She placed her bag down and said, "You'll want to see this." She held out an envelope. Tom opened it, finding another letter. This time it wasn't about small violations or vague threats. It was a formal notice. The HOA board would hold a private session to review Tom's disruptive behavior and consider fines or penalties. Tom frowned. So this is her new plan. If she can't control the neighbors with fear, she'll try to use the rules against me. Anna studied the paper. "Look closely. This isn't signed by the full board, just her name at the bottom. She's trying to act as if the board agrees, but it's only her." Tom felt frustration rising. "And people might believe it if they don't check closely." Anna placed a hand on his arm. "That's why you'll need to gather support. If she calls a private session, you call for a public one. Don't let her twist the truth behind closed doors." The following week, Tom went door to door speaking with his neighbors. He showed them the letter and explained what Karen was trying to do. Many shook their heads in disbelief. "This is going too far," David said. "She can't fine you for standing up for yourself." Others agreed to attend any meeting called. Slowly, Tom realized that Karen had lost the blind obedience she once enjoyed. The neighbors were no longer afraid. When the day of the private session came, Tom and Anna arrived at the community center. They were not alone. Nearly 30 neighbors showed up, their voices filling the small hall. Karen stood at the front, clearly surprised by the crowd. This was supposed to be a board session, Karen said, her voice tight. Tom stepped forward. If decisions are being made about me, then it's only fair that everyone hears it. We live in this neighborhood together. Secrets don't help anyone. The room murmured in agreement. Karen tried to maintain control. She tapped her clipboard, cleared her throat, and began to read a list of supposed violations. Failure to maintain property, causing unrest in the community, bringing unnecessary police attention. But before she could continue, one of the neighbors, an older woman named Linda, raised her hand. Karen, enough. We all saw what happened. You broke his door. You called the police. He didn't cause trouble, you did. Voices rose again, stronger this time. Several neighbors added their own complaints about Karen's past actions. Each story painted the same picture. Her rules weren't about helping the community, but about control. Karen's face reddened. She slammed her clipboard shut. If you all feel this way, then perhaps you should run the HOA yourselves. But don't blame me when the neighborhood falls apart. Tom took a breath, then spoke clearly. We're not against having rules. We're against abusive rules. There's a difference. We want a neighborhood where respect comes first, not fear. Applause filled the room once again. Karen's shoulders slumped, her authority slipping further. That night, Tom and Anna walked home together under the streetlights. She's losing control, Anna said. But be careful. Sometimes when people lose power, they make reckless choices. Tom nodded. I'll stay alert. But his words were soon tested. 2 nights later, Tom was awakened by a noise outside. At first, he thought it was the wind, but then he heard a faint scraping sound near the shed. He slipped out of bed quietly and peeked through the window. A shadow moved near the shed door. Tom's heart pounded. He grabbed his phone and crept to the back door. Anna, awakened by the sound, followed him, whispering, What is it? Someone's at the shed, Tom whispered back. Anna, still half in her police instincts, reached for her flashlight and motioned for Tom to stay behind her. She stepped outside the beam cutting through the dark. Stop right there, she commanded. The figure froze. For a moment, the light revealed a familiar shape. The posture, the way the shoulders curved, it was Karen. What are you doing here? Anna demanded. Karen squinted in the light. I was checking for rodents. They spread from yard to yard, and I thought, enough, Anna cut in. You're trespassing again, and this time, it's recorded. She pointed to the small camera Tom had installed earlier near the back door. Karen's face shifted from defiance to panic. She glanced around, realizing the neighbors might hear, then turned and hurried back to her house without another word. Tom exhaled heavily once she was gone. She's losing her mind. First the door, now the shed. Anna lowered the flashlight. This isn't just about control anymore. This is obsession. She's determined to prove she has power, even if it makes no sense. The next morning, Tom reviewed the footage. The camera had caught everything. Karen sneaking across the yard, fiddling with the shed, and fleeing when confronted. Tom saved the video. This time I won't let her off with just a warning. Anna nodded. Good. You've been patient enough. They reported the incident, handing over the footage. The authorities took it seriously, especially since it wasn't Karen's first intrusion. She was summoned for questioning, and word spread quickly through the neighborhood. Neighbors shook their heads in disbelief. She's gone too far, one said. She used to scare us, but now she's embarrassing herself. Even those who had once supported Karen began to distance themselves. She had become a symbol of excess, a warning of what happened when authority turned into obsession. Despite the progress, Tom felt uneasy. He had won small victories, but he sensed that Karen still held one last card. His suspicion proved right a week later. A large envelope arrived in his mailbox, this time from the county office. Inside was a complaint filed against him by the HOA president, accusing him of disturbing community order and requesting an official inspection of his property. Anna read the papers and shook her head. She's trying to drag this into legal territory again. She doesn't care if she loses as long as she makes your life difficult. Tom clenched his fists. Then I'll fight her properly. No more waiting, no more hoping she'll stop. I'll gather every piece of evidence, every witness, and show once and for all who's causing the real disturbance. Anna placed her hand on his shoulder. And I'll stand with you. Always. Tom felt stronger with her words. This wasn't just his fight anymore. It was a fight for peace, for dignity, and for a neighborhood that had suffered under one woman's control for too long. That evening, as the sun set behind the rooftops, Tom looked at his repaired door, his garden, and his home. Despite Karen's attempts, these walls still stood firm, but he knew the storm wasn't over. The battle had only moved to a new stage, one that would test his patience, his courage, and his determination to protect what was his. And this time, he wouldn't be standing alone. The thick envelope from the county office sat on the table like a weight. Tom stared at it, his jaw tight, while Anna flipped through the papers again. The complaint was detailed, full of accusations that twisted small moments into supposed violations. It spoke of uncut grass, improper repairs, and even hostile behavior toward the HOA president. Anna placed the papers down. She's smart. This isn't about truth. She's piling up enough claims to make you look like a problem homeowner. Even if they're false, the process alone can be stressful. Tom rubbed his forehead. She's using the system. She knows most people get tired and give up. Anna leaned forward. But you're not most people. You've already stood up to her in front of everyone. Now you need to stand up in front of officials too, and you won't be alone. We have evidence, we have neighbors, we have her on video sneaking into our yard. That's more than enough to fight back. Tom nodded slowly. You're right. If she wants a battle, then I'll give her one, but this time with every fact and every truth on my side. The next few days were busy. Tom began organizing his defense. He gathered every note Karen had left, every warning letter, every photo of her peeking around his house. Anna helped him organize the files into folders. David and other neighbors offered to give statements about how Karen had harassed them too. The small living room looked like an office, papers spread across the table, video clips saved on a laptop, and a calendar marked with dates of each incident. For the first time, Tom felt less like a victim and more like someone preparing to reveal the truth. At night, though, the weight of it pressed on him. Lying in bed, he would think about the hearing, about Karen's smirk, about the possibility of fines or more legal trouble. But every time his courage wavered, Anna reminded him, "You're not just fighting for yourself. You're fighting for everyone she's intimidated." That thought gave him strength. When the day of the inspection came, 2 county officials arrived at Tom's home. They carried clipboards, cameras, and serious expressions. Karen was not far behind, standing across the street with her arms folded, watching like a hawk. The officials walked through the front yard. The grass was trimmed, the garden neat, the repaired steps smooth and solid. They inspected the mailbox, the shed, even the trash bins. Each time, Tom calmly explained his maintenance routine. Finally, one of the officials said, "Everything here seems in order. We'll need to review our notes, but at first glance, we don't see major violations." Across the street, Karen's face twitched. She quickly marched forward, holding a thick folder. "You must look deeper. This homeowner has been disruptive. He brought police to our neighborhood, he causes unrest, and his repairs are not up to standard." One official looked at her folder but raised a hand. "Ma'am, we'll consider any evidence, but what we've seen here does not suggest serious violations." Karen's voice rose. "You don't understand. If we let this slide, the whole neighborhood will fall apart." Tom stood quietly, but inside he felt satisfaction. The more she spoke, the more desperate she sounded. When the officials left, Karen glared at Tom. "Don't think this is over. You're ruining everything I've built." Tom met her gaze. "I'm not ruining anything, I just want to live in peace." She turned sharply and stormed back to her house. Later that evening, Tom hosted a small gathering in his backyard. David, Linda, and several other neighbors came over. They shared food, laughter, and relief that someone had finally stood up to Karen. Linda said, "For years we thought she was untouchable. She fined me for leaving my recycling bin out for 1 extra hour. I paid because I was scared, but now I see she's just a bully hiding behind papers." David added, "If the county doesn't take her power away, maybe we should. We could vote for a new board. Why should she keep ruling us?" Tom looked around at the faces of his neighbors. Their eyes held hope. "If you want change, you'll need to stand together. I can't do it alone." They all nodded. For the first time, a real plan began to form. Karen, however, was not done. Over the next week, strange things began happening. One morning, Tom found his trash can tipped over, garbage scattered across the lawn. Another evening, his sprinkler system had been turned on full blast, flooding a section of his yard. Once, he even discovered a sharp scratch across his car door. He didn't want to believe Karen would stoop so low, but the pattern was clear. Each act was petty, but together they felt like warnings. Anna urged him to stay calm. That's exactly what she wants, to frustrate you, to make you angry. But if you stay patient, you'll win where it matters. Tom listened, but anger simmered inside him. He wanted to confront Karen directly. Still, he held back, knowing Anna was right. Finally, the county hearing date arrived. It was held in a small office room downtown. Tom and Anna entered together, folders in hand. Several neighbors came too, ready to speak on his behalf. Karen was already there, dressed formally, her folder stacked with papers. She gave Tom a tight smile, full of challenge. The officials began the session. Karen presented her case first, speaking at length about rules, standards, and community image. She showed photos of Tom's yard taken at odd angles, trying to make small issues look serious. She spoke passionately, almost dramatically, as if the entire future of the neighborhood depended on this case. When it was Tom's turn, he stood calmly. He laid out his evidence: the video of Karen sneaking into his yard, the broken door incident, the notes and letters, and the testimonies of neighbors. Each piece built a picture, not of a careless homeowner, but of a woman misusing her role. David spoke. We've all lived under her fear. Tom is not the problem. He's the one who finally stood up for us. Linda added, we want a neighborhood of respect, not one where we're scared of fines every week. The officials listened carefully, writing notes. At the end, they looked at Karen and said, your concerns are noted, but your actions have gone beyond reasonable authority. Homeowners deserve privacy and respect. This case is closed with no violations against Mr. Tom. Karen's face turned pale. She tried to protest, but her words were cut short. The decision was final. Walking out of the building, Tom felt lighter than he had in months. Anna squeezed his hand. You did it. You faced her where it mattered most. And you won. Tom smiled, though he knew one truth. It's not just about me. Everyone else won too. Now they know they don't have to live in fear. But Karen was not gone. As they reached the parking lot, Tom noticed her sitting in her car, gripping the wheel tightly. Her eyes burned with anger, but there was also something else, a flicker of defeat. She drove off quickly, leaving behind the faint echo of tires screeching. That evening, Tom returned home to find more neighbors waiting outside his house. They clapped him on the back, thanked him, and spoke with excitement about change. David said, it's time to vote for a new HOA board. If she won't step down, we'll make sure she's replaced. Tom raised his hands. I don't want to lead. I just want peace. Linda smiled. Maybe not you, but someone we trust. Someone who listens. That's all we need. Hope spread among them. For the first time, Karen's power was truly cracking, not because of one person, but because the whole neighborhood was ready to rise together. Inside the house, Tom sat at the table with Anna. The papers from the hearing were stacked neatly, the official decision clear. You know, Anna said softly, this fight has been hard, but look how far you've come. When it started, you just wanted her to leave you alone. Now, you've helped an entire community find its voice. Tom thought about it, then smiled faintly. Maybe sometimes trouble is what brings people together. Anna laughed quietly. Or maybe it just takes one stubborn neighbor to remind everyone what's worth standing for. Tom chuckled, feeling a strange mix of exhaustion and pride. The storm had been fierce, but for the first time he believed the calm was finally near. The days after the county hearing felt lighter for Tom. For months he had lived with pressure, with Karen's constant watch and criticism. Now for the first time he could walk outside without fearing another warning note or surprise complaint. The neighborhood itself seemed brighter. Children laughed louder, neighbors greeted each other more freely, and a sense of relief spread from one house to another. But Karen's shadow still lingered. She no longer marched down the street with her clipboard, yet everyone knew she was planning something. Tom sensed it in the way her curtains twitched whenever he passed, or how her car engine rumbled late at night as if she was driving around looking for mistakes. Anna noticed it too. She's quiet, but quiet doesn't mean gone. People like her don't step down easily. Tom agreed, though he refused to let fear guide him. Instead, he focused on helping his neighbors organize. Together, they discussed voting for a new HOA board, one that actually cared about the community rather than control. David suggested a fair system where each family could voice their concerns openly, and Linda offered to run for president herself, promising she would never misuse the position. One evening, Tom hosted another meeting in his backyard. Lanterns glowed softly and the air was filled with calm conversation. Neighbors who once avoided gatherings now came eagerly, hopeful for change. Linda spoke with confidence. "We can't let Karen keep ruling us. She's used her power to scare and divide. But we have the right to choose new leaders. If we vote, we can take back our community." The group nodded in agreement. For many, it was the first time they felt like their voices mattered. Tom listened quietly, proud of the unity forming. But deep down, he wondered how Karen would react when she realized her reign was ending. Karen, on the other hand, was in turmoil. She sat in her living room surrounded by binders, folders, and papers filled with rules. Her power had given her identity, and now it was slipping away. She felt betrayed by the neighbors she thought feared her, and humiliated by the county's rejection of her complaint. She stared at her reflection in the dark window. "They don't understand," she whispered to herself. "Without rules, this place will fall apart. I built order here. I protected them. And now they turn against me." Her bitterness grew, but she also realized she could not win with the same old tricks. Too many eyes were on her now. Too many people were ready to fight back. A week later, the HOA meeting was held in the community center. It was the largest turnout anyone had ever seen. People filled the seats, some even standing at the back. The room buzzed with energy. Karen entered first, dressed sharply, her posture stiff with authority. She carried her usual clipboard, though this time her eyes betrayed unease. Tom walked in with Anna by his side. David and Linda followed, along with many other neighbors. For once, they looked united rather than scattered. The meeting began with Karen standing at the front. "As president of the Homeowners Association, I want to remind everyone of the importance of rules. Without them, our neighborhood would lose value and chaos would spread. I have worked tirelessly to keep this place safe and beautiful." Murmurs rose in the crowd, but before Karen could continue, Linda stood up. "We respect rules, but rules should not be used as weapons. Many of us have suffered under your leadership. We believe it's time for change, and we have the right to vote for a new board." The room erupted with agreement. People clapped, some cheered softly. Karen's face hardened. "You think you can replace me?" she said sharply. "You don't know what it takes to run this place. You'll regret this." David raised his voice. "No one regrets standing up for fairness. We're tired of living in fear. Tonight we decide together." The vote was simple. Slips of paper were passed around, and each homeowner marked their choice. Karen stood stiffly at the front, watching as her power slipped further with every hand that moved. When the results were counted, Linda was chosen as the new president. Cheers filled the room. Karen's face turned pale, and for a moment she looked like she might shout, but instead she dropped her clipboard onto the table and stormed out without another word. The change was immediate. With Linda leading, meetings became open discussions instead of lectures. Rules were enforced fairly, with warnings given kindly and fines applied only when truly necessary. The neighborhood slowly transformed from a place of tension to one of trust. Tom felt the difference most in the small things. He could mow his lawn without someone glaring from across the street. He could fix his shed without fearing another complaint. He could wave to his neighbors, and they waved back warmly. Anna was proud too. "You didn't just stand up for yourself. You gave them courage to stand up too." Tom smiled. "I just wanted peace, but maybe peace takes a little fight first." One afternoon, weeks later, Tom was watering his garden when he noticed Karen standing at the edge of her driveway. She looked different, her shoulders less square, her eyes tired. For a moment, Tom considered ignoring her, but something in her expression held him. He set the hose down and walked over. "Karen," he said calmly. She glanced at him, then away. "You won," she muttered. "It's not about winning," Tom replied. "It's about living without fear. No one wanted to fight you, but you left us no choice." Her lips tightened. "I was only trying to keep things perfect." "Perfection isn't peace," Tom said gently. "Sometimes it's better to let people live than to control every detail." Karen didn't respond, but she didn't argue either. She turned back toward her house, and for the first time, Tom saw not a villain but a lonely woman who had lost herself in rules. He returned to his garden, feeling lighter. As months passed, the neighborhood thrived. Children played freely, families gathered for barbecues, and people who once stayed distant now chatted across fences. The memory of Karen's strict reign faded, replaced by a stronger sense of community. Tom and Anna enjoyed the calm. Their evenings were filled with laughter instead of tension, their mornings with peace instead of worry. They had fought a hard battle, but the reward was worth it. One night, as Anna prepared for her shift, she adjusted her police uniform and smiled at Tom. "Remember the night Karen broke our door and called the cops? She thought she would crush us, but instead it changed everything." Tom chuckled. "I'll never forget her face when you opened that door in uniform. That was the start of her downfall." Anna grinned. Sometimes life has its own sense of justice. They shared a quiet moment, grateful for how far they had come. The story of Karen's downfall became a quiet legend in the neighborhood. People spoke of it not with anger but with pride, as a reminder that even the loudest voice of control could be silenced by unity and courage. Tom never sought recognition, but many looked at him as the neighbor who had shown them how to stand tall. And though Karen remained in her house, quieter than before, she no longer ruled the street. She had been forced to see that fear cannot lead forever. In the end, peace returned, not as the absence of conflict, but as the presence of fairness and respect. For Tom and Anna, that was all they had ever wanted.